Hi, some of you know me, but I'm Courtney, and this summer I embarked on the research trip of a lifetime to Bosnia and Herzegovina with the support of Davidson's Ligo Grant. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my super exciting project, the cool research I got to do, all the cool places I got to see. I'll include a little breakdown of everything I did while I was there, photos, videos. It's amazing, it's so beautiful. As well as talking about how you can also embark on a solo trip or research trip like this yourself. And if you're a Davidson student, how the Ligo Grant can support you in that vision. Now, I am not in Bosnia. I'm filming this 2 months later from my grandma's house in Canada. So I am still not back in the US yet. I have been everywhere this summer. But we're gonna transition to a little video of me when I was in Bosnia explaining my project. Let's go. So get ready with me while I explain my art historical project and everything that I've seen so far. So I've always wanted to visit the Balkans. My grandma was from Croatia. Well, I just grew up hearing a lot about her life when she was younger, but she eventually moved away to Canada in the 1970s. The Balkans are a region which is made up of 6-ish countries. I know I don't want to get any heat for getting the Balkans wrong. People have very strong opinions in this region. The Balkans should be Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Macedonia, maybe Albania, maybe Slovenia. Greece is a big maybe. I don't think they count Greece in there. But yeah, and this is a region that has a lot of history. Specifically, I am visiting Bosnia and Herzegovina because I'm doing an art historical project on the Ottoman Empire and the buildings that they left behind after their reign here. I took an Islamic art history class last semester at Davidson with Professor Halstead. She's amazing. If you're at Davidson, you should totally take a class with her. And if not, if you're at another college, maybe take Islamic art or see if there's some kind of class like that at your school, or even just go explore it on your own. It's very cool regardless. So essentially, the reason why I am in Bosnia is I was able to get a grant from the Ligo Grant at Davidson College. This is a grant that encourages first and second years to pursue an art history major through the means of funding art historical projects and art historical research. For Islamic art history, we were learning a lot about the Ottoman Empire, but we weren't learning so much about the Balkans, and I was curious why that was. Apparently, it's because there's not a lot of information on Ottoman architecture in the Balkans, which is due to a number of reasons. But I really wanted my classes to be able to learn about the Balkans, to be able to learn about the place where I partially claim heritage from, but also just because I knew that there were so many beautiful monuments, so many beautiful places that I guess were currently understudied. A lot of these places don't have any photographs of them on the internet, or they don't have English translated information on them. So that's why I'm here. I leave Bosnia tomorrow. I've only just gotten around to filming this now. I've managed to photograph so many Ottoman buildings. I'm staying in the capital of Sarajevo, and I swear I have to have photographed almost every Ottoman monument here because I've been around. I also did do some tours, which were also funded by the Ligo Grant, to visit some further out cities, both those with Ottoman architecture that I could photograph and those that are important to understanding the history of the area. Those included, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing some of these wrong, Konjic, Pochtelj, Srebrenica, Krvice Falls, Shlap, the Kushlat Mosque, and some others. I've been taking pictures on my Kodak Pix Pro, which is a little digital camera that I got in 10th grade, but it's 100% doing the job. And I hope that when I come back, I can create this YouTube video, hopefully show a little bit about what my Ligo Grant experience was like, how my art historical project is going, and to encourage you guys to apply to it if you're at Davidson, but also to complete my project, which the end goal would be that information in English and good photographs and detail shots of these monuments are available in some kind of place on the internet. Currently, my goal is my own website, but I also have somebody who might be able to help me get this on Wikipedia, which would be great, because my main goal of this project is not to make it just like a cool thing that I did, but something that other people actually use and are actually helped by. But I'll tell you a little bit about how my experience has been so far. I packed very light because I didn't check a bag, which I would also recommend because it meant that I had a lot less to carry around. And depending on how you're traveling, like if you want to stop at your layover or if you want to stay in a more hostile type environment, I wouldn't recommend checking a bag anyways because it's just gonna slow you down. Me, for example, I stopped in Vienna on my layover and that was pretty cool. I literally only got to be there for 1 hour in the city center when the time of my layover like was calculated and everything, but I really appreciated it and it was really cool. Now the full journey to get here was 18 hours, and when I tell you I was about to pass out, I arrived here in Sarajevo at 2 p.m. so I stayed up the rest of the day, and since then my days in Bosnia have been a combination of tours, so going with groups of people to other areas of the country, and staying in Sarajevo and photographing things here. This is my last day. I will be staying in Sarajevo and I'm going to miss this city so much. It's so beautiful here. I love it. Now, as a woman, it's also my first time solo traveling. But for me, the experience has been nothing but safe. There was only one moment that I felt a little bit scared, but I was also with a big group when that happened. More on that later. So I knew that in every moment I was never in any real danger, which is great because when you're by yourself, you know, you don't really want to get into problems. And it has been pretty great. There's been a couple times where I've got a little bit lonely, but I've been able to talk to some people in tour groups, really cool people on the one that I went on yesterday. And even though I haven't been socializing as much as I normally do, I've still managed to meet so many incredible people. More on this later. I gotta go to Sarajevo. Onto my itinerary. After way too many flights, I landed in my long layover of Vienna, which was beautiful and had great architecture. Are y'all telling me Europeans just walk outside and see this? Huh? After just one more short flight, I landed in Sarajevo, very sleep deprived, but I visited the Yellow Fortress, or Zuta Bija. It's this fortress overlooking the entire city, and it was absolutely beautiful. On the walk down, I saw a traditional Islamic graveyard here in Bosnia, many other places, and then I went to sleep. The next day, I went on a local organized tour recommended by my Airbnb host, and I was a little nervous, but I had Google Translate, and a few of the people touring spoke English, so that was beautiful. Genuinely one of the nicest places I've ever seen. We visited a small town called Schlop, and then went on to eat, and then afterwards to the Kushlop Mosque, which was the main attraction and the reason I went. It was raining like literally all day. We were pretty close to the Serbian border, so it was really cool to see a different type of scenery. This was the mosque. It's the oldest in all of Bosnia. Very beautiful, cute stray dogs, and I went back to my place at night. The next day was all about Sarajevo and photographing it, and that I did. I tried the cable cars about halfway through the day, and they were absolutely beautiful, taking me to the top of the mountain with the best views. I think it was called Trebevic. Before that, in the morning, I visited Gazi Husrev Bey Mosque, which was amazing because I've done an entire research project on it. Then did a short walking tour with a local, which I highly recommended. When I took the cable cars, I did some hiking at the top, then visited the Museum of Crimes Against Humanity. A very upsetting but important experience, and then went to Zuta Bija, or the Yellow Fortress, one more time to try to see sunset. It ended up being way too cloudy, but it was beautiful enough to let it slide. I went back to my place and I was done for the day. The next day was tours to tons of different towns and sites, and it was beautiful. Now we were moving towards the Croatian border, which also meant that we were getting closer to Herzegovina, which, by the way, is just a name denoting the different climates in the different regions. It doesn't really have political ties. This is the Neretva River. It is the coldest river ever, and I only found that out after I had tried to touch it and see how cold it was. But it was absolutely beautiful. The water was blue. It was gorgeous. The mountains were gray, big, such beautiful stones and scenery. You can see here as we're driving past it, it's amazing. Then we got to Mostar for the Starry Most. You can see the divers getting ready at the top where they dive into the super cold Neretva River. That's crazy. My driver had an amazing sandwich for us, so I just got to have a good meal while watching all these great views. Yeah, big recommend. So we kept moving closer to the Croatian border to get to Kravice Falls and Blagaš Teki. So we were on top of this mountain, just driving in the middle of the road. There's only a tiny rail. Bosnian driving is another type of thing. Kravice Falls was possibly like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The water was pure blue. The water was actually not even too cold either. There were some people swimming. Look at all those waterfalls! Then we got to Pachtels, which is a medieval town that was conquered by the Ottomans, and so you have this good mix of medieval and Ottoman architecture. Blagaš Teki, which is next to this beautiful little like spring-looking area in the mountains. Dude, look at this. They just built that in the mountains. It's like Gatorade blue water. It's crazy. So that was amazing. Saw so many sights, had some good Italian when I got back, and went to sleep. Now, remember that part of the video where I said more on that later? Here's the more on that later part. I wanted to include a little bit more context in this section of the video because it's difficult to understand if you don't have that knowledge. Keep in mind, I could be getting sections of this wrong, but as someone with relatives from former Yugoslavia and someone who has now traveled in the former Yugoslavia, I feel confident in addressing this little section of the history. So for my project, I was mainly examining Ottoman sites. I had a little bit lesser but still there focus on culture of Bosnians, the struggles, especially those recent struggles in the 90s with the Bosnian War, how people who are Muslim are perceived today in Bosnia and the Balkans as a whole. And again, as someone who is not Muslim or Bosnian, it is impossible for me to understand all the nuances of that conversation, but to educate myself on the modern struggles and also support the modern day economy there felt very important to me as someone who tries their best to travel ethically and knowledgeably. Now, on this particular day, I was taking a tour to the town of Srebrenica, which was unfortunately the site of the Srebrenica genocide in the 90s. In the whole country of Bosnia and Herzegovina, is often shortened just to Bosnia or BIH, there is a political divide. About half of the territory of the country is territory controlled by the Republika Srpska entity, which is a group of Bosnian Serbs, an ethnic group, was able to control this territory because of a treaty made in the 90s to try to stop tensions in this area. So traveling to the site of the Srebrenica genocide was very important to me. This was the site in which thousands of Bosniak, another ethnic group, Muslim men were killed during the Bosnian War. Actually, this genocide was only classified as such very recently by the UN, a few days before I got to Bosnia, which is insane that it took so long, but there are so many reasons for that, unfortunately. But the locals I spoke to told me that there were also many other genocides happening in the area to Bosniaks, Croatians, and those just will never be recognized as such due to the politics surrounding all of that. This is still very recent history in the 90s, meaning that many of the people who participated in it are still alive and walking free to this day. Now, driving to the site of the genocide, you are traversing almost entirely through Republika Srpska territory once you exit the city of Sarajevo. Oftentimes, people who live in Republika Srpska or the Republika Srpska police, if they see a tour van going through this area, especially headed in a certain direction, they sort of know where we're going. Our tour van had to pull over for a convoy. It could have been any sort of governmental figure, and there were a lot of police, at least like 10 cars, if not more. So we pulled over for that, and a few of the cars slowed down after they saw our van pulled over, but there was no issue after that. We got back on the road, and probably around 15 or 20 minutes later, we were stopped by another Republika Srpska police car, which unfortunately in the Balkans and a lot of Eastern Europe, there is police corruption. So this is not necessarily usually something that's so much dangerous as it is just disappointing. So we pulled over. It was a group of me and maybe like 4 other people touring and my tour guide. Tour guide stepped out and he talked to the police for what was definitely more than 10 minutes. And when he came back in the car, he explained to us what had happened. We got back on the road, started driving away again, and as he was explaining to us what happened, about 5 minutes later, we noticed that another police car was following us. They did not pull us over, but they followed us to the edge of the city or town that we were driving through. So I feel that that was just another intimidation tactic. What happened is that my driver was pulled over for essentially sort of no reason to begin with. We were not speeding, but we were a tour van driving through Republika Srpska going into certain direction, so clearly we're visiting the site of the Srebrenica genocide. He had asked the driver who was traveling in the van, to which he responded, our nationalities, before he was asked to step out. A bit of a longer conversation before the police asked if they could see his ID, which is a sure marker of whether you're in the Bosniak ethnicity, Croat ethnicity, or Serb ethnicity. So my driver had a name derived from the Muslim faith, and as soon as he read this card that denoted him not only as of Bosnian ethnicity, but probably also a Muslim, he found something wrong with our van. I can't even remember what it was, but it was not actually like an issue on our vehicle. Wrote him a fine for it, which ended up being a lot of money. He also wrote it in Cyrillic, which is like the script that's used for Russian. And then after holding him for sort of an unnecessarily long time, sort of intimidating him, let him go, let him get back in the van, and left. And that was at which point we were driving and another police car had started following us just for intimidation purposes. I wouldn't say I necessarily felt scared in this moment, but these tensions still play out in the modern day, and the way in which my driver was quite literally profiled, quite literally extorted just for his ethnicity and being a Muslim man. Disappointing for sure, but a reality of the region. But then after that, we continued on to the site and the museum with little issue. Republika Srpska flags are very frequently hung in the area, I noticed. The museum was very upsetting, but the memorial center and graveyard was a beautiful dedication to the lives so unfortunately lost, and I'm really grateful that I got to experience this site, as well as the town of Srebrenica, and to learn more about the history that most people would rather forget or never learned about in the first place. I mainly spent my last day in Sarajevo visiting museums like this gallery in memory of the Srebrenica genocide. I visited the National Gallery of Bosnia and Herzegovina, had Bosnian coffee 2 more times because I miss it, visited the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and finally Vrelo Bosnia, a nature site. And of course, then I had to go home. You did all this research. What's next for the project? Happy you asked. So one step obviously was this YouTube video where I hope that I've showed you all of the amazing things I was able to do. And after that was my archival website, which you can now see here and in the caption as a space that contains all of the architectural photographs I took and the information on them, and is generally going to serve as the archival source of information regarding this project. This can be used for educational and research purposes for free. So because of the Ligo Grant's generous support, all of you and scholars have access to that information, and you don't have to fly to Bosnia like I did. I'm also looking at other academic archives that this work could have a place in, so hopefully I can update you guys on that soon. And finally, for now, I hope to present my work at my school's research symposium, the Verna Miller Case Symposium. So that's that. Now let's talk about the Ligo Grant. If you think the possibility of doing an independent student art project is as cool as I did, and you're a Davidson student, this is something that you can expect to take advantage of, as well as all of the other amazing grants that Davidson has to offer. I've also gotten grants from the Dean Rusk International Studies Program and the Chaplain's Office. Larry L.R. Ligo, who the grant is named after, was a professor at Davidson who taught art history for more than 5 decades, and the grant was established in his honor to foster early undergraduate engagement in art history, architectural history, and visual culture. That means that anybody who wants to further their understanding of those topics through travel, research, and experiential learning can formulate an idea and apply for this grant. The grants are from $1,000 to $5,000, and they prioritize first and second year students with an interest in art history, and in order of preference, it can cover anything from students who want to travel independently for art historical research, students who need assistance for class trips that involve analyzing artworks, and to supplement art department class trips. There are 3 deadlines. I did the summer deadline since I was doing summer travel research. If you want to do travel research in the fall semester, make sure you apply by September 15th. If you want to do travel research in the spring semester, apply by February 20th. And if you want to do it in the summer, like me, apply by March 20th. At the end of your project, you're also going to be required to submit some kind of documentation, so that can be photo, video, or like a whole project like I did, and also to share those outcomes publicly in some way. That can mean a lot of things, but to most people that means a research symposium. I'm also putting my things online, and the application process will look a little bit like this. Get to the application through the art department's website, find and click on it here, and now we have the whole application open. You have to answer some questions about what your project is going to be, and then you have some written answers. So you're going to talk about your trip, the itinerary you have planned, objectives, and the outcomes.
then also how you're going to share those experiences, like I said, in a public space. Then we have the entire budget you have to do, so summing up all of your trip's costs, which includes food, accommodations, tours, anything that you're going to be needing the grant to pay for, and then mentioning if you have any other sources that you're going to see funding from. The process was relatively simple. After the deadline, it took around 3 weeks for the committee to get back to me, at which point, if you've been awarded the grant, they give you instructions on how to use it. So yeah, that's my project, Ottoman in BIH, which is also the name of my archival website. And I hope that this video serves as not only an explanation of my project, but also as an example of how you can do something similar in your community or all the way across the world. So yeah, I hope you have a great day, a great life, and you keep making or viewing art. Bye!